Hi, and welcome to BTC 4D Bitcoin Weekly Recap. I'm your host, Hugh Manatee. It's November 1st, and Bitcoin's price is currently $69,470. This week's big stories are Florida's CFO advocating for Bitcoin, Microstrategy's huge capital plan, a new whale wallet on the scene, Larry Fink's Q4 outlook, and more. Let's dive into the top stories. Here we have today's first story. Jimmy Patronis, the CFO of the state of Florida, wrote a letter to Chris Spencer, the executive director of the Florida State Board of Administration, asking for the administration to look at Bitcoin as a potential asset to add to their pension funds. I highly suggest reading this letter. Patronis touts Florida as a leader in the world economy, and they want to keep that lead by allocating to Bitcoin strategically. They also cite in the letter that they don't want China to beat them to this commodity, and that if they don't do anything now, they might cede control of Bitcoin to China, which I thought was really interesting. He also cites other states like Wisconsin and Michigan who have invested small portions of their pensions into Bitcoin, and even cite other states like Wyoming and Nebraska who've entered into Bitcoin mining and prioritizing that within their state. So this is extremely, extremely beneficial. And I think that for a large economy like the state of Florida, this is a very big deal. Second story of the week, total Bitcoin in the ETFs. The spot ETFs for Bitcoin have hit a huge milestone this week. Total Bitcoin in spot ETFs is over 1 million Bitcoin now. I think that this is an undercovered story by mainstream financial news. This is a massive, massive achievement for a set of ETFs that are less than a year old. If you break it down, 1 million Bitcoin is an average of about 2,000 Bitcoin net inflow per day that the ETFs are sucking up. And that's just a lot of Bitcoin. And I think we should be mindful of how large of an achievement this is. For even more context, the ETFs have crossed the threshold of $20 billion worth of Bitcoin under management. And it took the gold ETF 5 years to do that. We're only 10 months into the Bitcoin spot ETFs. So they've hit a huge milestone, 80% faster than gold. And I think currently the market caps of the spot Bitcoin ETFs are about half that of gold. And they got to half that of gold within 1 year. So I think it's proven that the Bitcoin ETFs are a desired vehicle for people looking for exposure to Bitcoin. You may not like the ETFs, and you may want everyone holding the ETFs to self-custody that Bitcoin. However, I think that's still a long ways off for a lot of older investors who don't trust the keys in their own hands and are used to going on TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab or whatever your brokerage account is and just purchasing a ticker. So huge success story for the Bitcoin ETFs, and I think more to come as evidenced by the accumulation in the Bitcoin ETFs the past couple of weeks. Let's take a look at Bitcoin strategy platform from the Rational Root and just look at the last week of accumulation. So we'll start last Friday, net inflow of 5,700. Then Monday, 6,600. Tuesday, 12,000. almost 300, and then Wednesday 12,000, and then Halloween only 831. So these back-to-back 12,000 Bitcoin days, to me, the largest accumulation by the ETFs, I think, since their inception, really signifies to me that we are in the third accumulation phase of this bull run, and the Bitcoin ETFs are stopping at the gas station one more time before they long haul this bad boy up to moonland. That's my humble opinion. Take it, leave it. I'm a sea cow, and I don't even have thumbs, so my opinion doesn't matter. Next story, MicroStrategy. These daggum bastards are at it again. I mean, this is ridiculous stuff. MicroStrategy announced its third quarter 2024 financial results and announcement of $42 billion capital plan. What's key about this? I listened to probably an hour of their earnings call, and it was quite impressive. Fong Lee is really quite impressive. Really happy with how he's doing. But let's dig into what MicroStrategy is doing with this $42 billion, what it means, and how they are looking at it from a corporate finance and corporate strategy perspective, because I think that is really key to understand, because something is being birthed here, with Metaplanet, that I think is going to be referred to quite a lot in the coming years. So they've announced a 21 billion at the market equity offering and announced a target of $21 billion capital raise using fixed income securities. Okay, so they're issuing equity and they're raising debt over the course of the next 3 years, so through 2027. What is their goal for doing this? MicroStrategy reported a BTC yield in Q3 of 2024 of 5.1%. What is BTC yield? Let's check out Dylan LeClaire for a second, where he explains that BTC yield measures the percentage change in the ratio of total Bitcoin holdings to fully diluted shares outstanding. Net, this is the singular KPI that corporate treasury Bitcoin companies will use to measure the increase of value of their Bitcoin holdings per share. That's it. It's very simple. If I understand that incorrectly, please let me know in the comments, but that's what I understand it to mean. This is the KPI that's going to drive these corporate strategies as new entrants come into the market. So with this new capital plan, MicroStrategy is revising their target BTC yield to 6 to 10% for the next 3 years. So currently in Q4 or Q3 of 2024, BTC yield 5.1%, capital plan $42 billion, revised BTC yield target to 6 to 10%. So anywhere from 20% higher from Q3 this year to double what it is now through 2027. What's astounding to me is how laser focused MicroStrategy is with their capital plan and their strategy to acquire more BTC for shareholders. That is their singular freaking focus. The only thing going on in their business intelligence business is they're moving people to the cloud. That's all I gleaned from their core business strategy. Everything else is completely Bitcoin oriented, and they're very clear about that. I think it's extremely impressive, and I think there's a lot more to come for this company. And I think investors are going to start sniffing this out and converge on MicroStrategy as a Bitcoin proxy other than ETFs or other than miners. There's no carrying cost to holding MicroStrategy shares. So they're extremely smart, and Saylor knows what he's doing. Kudos to them. I think their Bitcoin bag at MicroStrategy is north of 250,000 Bitcoin. And with this plan, their bag could double in the next 3 years. That's obviously dependent on Bitcoin's price. But I think given what I've seen, they could double their bag or get close to it. Okay, moving on to our next story. Metaplanet, the MicroStrategy of Japan. Their key analyst and advisor is former Bitcoin Magazine guy Dylan LeClaire, Mr. Laser Eyes up here. If you're not following him, I suggest following him on X. He's smart. He's completely focused on Bitcoin and understands the corporate strategy part of this really, really well, and has been helping Metaplanet implement that strategy on a smaller scale in Japan. He came out with the description of Bitcoin Yield, BTC Yield, as the leading KPI for the strategy. And if he says that that's the leading KPI, I trust him. And I think this KPI communicates in corporate finance language the accretive nature of Bitcoin, and therefore makes it extremely easy to defend as a strategy. So I think that's what he's doing here with this KPI choice and being really upfront about it. So that's what I say. That's our show for today. That is the weekly Bitcoin recap. I'm your host, Hugh Manatee. Join me next week for another recap of Bitcoin news, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in Bitcoin for the week. Thanks. Take care. See you next week.